Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Josh. Good morning, everybody. For those of you I have not met yet, my name is Blair. I'm the Siebel Program Manager for U.S. Sailing. I am up here introducing Rain Bennett. Rain, can you give us a little wave? He'll be up here in just a second, but I am lucky enough to introduce Rain because he and I are both from North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, live in Durham, North Carolina currently. He is a friend of mine, and he is an incredible storyteller, filmmaker, fitness enthusiast, and kind of a local celebrity where we live. So Rain agreed to come out here and tell you guys a little bit about his business. He does two things. He coaches organizations and he coaches individuals, all through storytelling. He is exceptional at figuring out the heart of someone's message. So in an organization, figuring out what they're truly about, what their gifts are, telling that through social media and marketing, and in turn, that really connects people to them through great members, fundraising, people that just, want to come be a part of your organization because they truly understand what you're about. So I know that can be a challenge sometimes in sailing, getting across like the heart of what our organizations are beyond just the boat. And Rain is here to inspire us with that message. So please give him a huge round of applause. Come on up. He was prepared for 200 people, and now he has 400 people, so he's going to kill it. Thank you, Rain.
Thank you. I have one right here. What's up, my beautiful people? How are you doing? You made it to the final day. Congratulations. You've been listening to people speak and present for 2-3 straight days now, and now you have to listen to me, all of you, as Blair said. And guess what? I'm not even a sailor. A collective gasp through the room. Well, I have sailed before, let me clarify. I just don't consider myself a sailor. See, I learned to sail, Blair knows this place, at Camp Don Lee in North Carolina. That's me, looking adorable. It's me with my friend Chris. And we'd go down there during the summers and we learned to sail on sunfishes. How many people learned to sail on a sunfish in here? Right, I'm in good company then. And oh my gosh, I still love those sailboats because they were so simple. 2 kids could operate it. And if you were good like me back then, just one can do it. But it really wasn't as fun, right? It was fun to spend that time with my friend Chris and get to know each other. What you could really do is sneak over, cross the line to the rich kids sailing camp and play a little rudder tag and flip their rudders up. Now, my legal team advised me to give a disclaimer that you should not try that at home because 90% of the time what that meant was that they capsized. And that's not really cool. That's not really cool. Back in the 80s and 90s, you could get away, you could do anything. Now, I'd probably get in a lot of trouble for doing that. So we'd go down there. Look, there's me and Chris. Obviously, we're the crazy ones. Over there to the right of the picture. Chris was crazier than I was. We'd go down there once a summer, 1 week or 2 weeks. But that was about the extent of my sailing career. So I come from a powerboat, motorboat family. I was born in 1982. That's me with my brother Bo. There it is. Oh, there's me again. Yeah, cute, super cute. Justin, there it is. Look at that, 1982. Already got the chubby cheeks and everything. It's my brother Bo. We grew up in Little Washington, North Carolina. And about 45 minutes away, that same year, my dad bought some property off the Pungo River. I grew up in the Pamlico River. He bought some property in Hyde County in the Pungo River, and we had a little river cottage. As you can see, as the camera tilts up a little bit, it was a trailer, all right? It was a trailer. It was a mobile home. But to us, it was a second home. It was our river cottage. It was our little slice of heaven. So we loved it. We go down there on the weekends, and that is my dad, strong, silent country man, smoked cigarettes all day. And that was the boat that I grew up on. It was a 16-foot Mitchell tri-hull with a 35 horsepower Evinrude, outboard Evinrude on it. Now that's key because my dad was the type of man who, that's all he needed. He didn't want to go too fast, 35 miles per hour. This is a man who got a ticket once for going too slow on the highway. No joke, true story. Come to find out, it's because he had been drinking. The ticket was actually a DUI, but it was still for going too slow. Now, as it were, that wasn't the only time he drank. In fact, he drank quite a lot. And by quite a lot, I mean every day. So things weren't really pleasant growing up in my family. There was fights, the cops were called, general basic redneckery going on. But this, when we come down here and the times on that boat were the good times. That's what I think about when I think of that boat. I don't think of the bad times, I think of the good times. This boat was the same age I was, it grew up with us, it was like a family member. And when we'd go down to Hyde County on the weekends, what we would do, it'd be dusk, much like it is here. Look at me and Bo running through the flood. It would be dusk, and we'd go out and we'd set flounder nets along the banks of the Pungo River. And then, the next morning, you'd have to wake up and pull them in before the sun rose. No kid that age wants to wake up at 6 a.m. to go pull in a slimy net full of fish and crabs. So I was reluctant. I never wanted to do it. And when I see this adorable picture, can we agree it's adorable, please? Come on, I peaked at 5. I'm just kidding, I'm still handsome. When I see this picture, I think of one time in particular. This was a typical weekend. We went down there, set the nets at sunset, came back in, had a good fresh seafood dinner, ate ice cream out of like the cardboard box that would open, if you ever had those. Watched Saturday Night Live on a 3-channel knob-turning television. And this was during the Adam Sandler and Chris Farley years, best cast ever. And then we went to bed, woke up the next morning to go get the nets. Here was my job. I manned the throttle while my dad pulled in the nets off the bow. And if we got a little too close to the net, I'd throw it in neutral or I'd back it up and reverse a little bit. If we needed to move forward, I'd throw it forward. And one thing that happened every now and then, besides pulling in a flounder or a spot or a croaker or a blue crab, sometimes you'd get a skate. And a skate, if you're not familiar, is basically a cousin of a stingray. There's a poisonous barb there too. Some of them were this big, and they made this, oh my God, they made this terrible sound, this like whop, whop, this awful sound. They'd flap their fins in the boat. For this version of rain, it was terrified. I'm triggered right now just thinking about it. So this day, we get a skate. Okay, not a big deal. Normally you untangle them from the net, release them, they go on about their merry way. But it was super, super tangled, and the current had pulled us forward. So we're getting away on top of the net now. Now we're getting in real trouble because if the net gets under the boat and gets caught on the prop, we're in a different kind of trouble, right? So the only option we had was to pull in the excess of net that we had basically gone over, pull it into the boat, and we'd untangle it later. We had to get this skate out. As my dad pulled it in, there was another one. Then another one. Then another one. There were 7 skates in various sizes, but some of them were this big around, flopping and making a whop, whop all over the boat. So now I don't have a choice. I get pulled off of my normal post, what I normally do, and I have to help my dad. He gives me a pocket knife and tells me to get this one untangled. So I'm like, okay, I got a new responsibility. Time to step up, be a man, you can do it. So I'm struggling. It's so tangled. I shouldn't even be handling the pocket knife. I'm probably too young. I'm sweating. At one point, my hand almost hits the barb, and I'm freaking out. And I'm about to call for help, but I really wanted to prove myself and help my dad. He's dealing with 6 other ones. And I'm just, sweat is pouring off of me. I'm nervous, I'm shaking. And just as I'm about to call out for my dad for help, I feel this like water trickling on my neck. I wipe at it, and I keep going. And then it comes back, and I look up, and the sun's coming up over the horizon. I'm like, there's not a cloud in the sky. I know it's not raining. I'm like, what the hell was going on? So I turn in regular motion, but it felt like slow motion. I turned to see if my dad, it was happening to him or if he knew what was going on. And I turn in slow motion and I see him standing there. Katie said I could curse, right? Standing there with a shit-eating grin, holding a flounder in his hand and squeezing it, so it's peeing on me. The flounder is peeing on me. I didn't even know fish could pee. Come to find out, some of them can. And it was peeing all over me. I'm 5 years old, I started crying. And then my dad started dying laughing, like buckled over. And I'm just sitting there, Daddy. But when I saw him laughing, then I started laughing. And we had this moment where we were both just buckled over, skates flopping all over the boat and dying laughing. Now, eventually, we helped each other. We got the rest of the skates out, kind of tore up the net a little bit. We pulled in a decent haul of fish, not great, but enough so that we could have dinner that night. But from that moment on, like, I didn't dread going out there so much because this became a moment where we bonded, right? We had this connection through the boat. And as I grew up later, I longed for that. As I grew up, I longed for that feeling that I had on the boat. It was great. Now, when Katie asked me to come here a few months ago, I'll be honest, I was a little concerned because this was my relationship with boats. This boat, right? I'm not a sailor. So I had that voice in the back of my head that was like, how are you going to connect with these people if you're not even really a part of their community and their culture? And as I got thinking about that a little bit more, and this kind of bugs me, we really love to do that in this day and age. We love to look at what makes us different than one another. We love to think about the lines between us and the compartments and the categories that we fit in, right? And it's always us versus them. It's like binary, right? Black, white, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, millennial, boomer. That's a popular one these days. And we like to generalize and put people in these boxes. And the thing is, we're all suffering from it. All of us are hurting because as humans, we have this innate yearning for community and belonging and connection. And when we divide ourselves by those lines, it eliminates that. And this is something that it's 100% in our DNA. We've always had this yearning for connection. And the way we've done it since 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, just like here, these cavemen around the campfire, is by sharing stories with one another. That's how we've built our tribes and our communities, okay? Because back then, there's no way humans would have made it to the top of the food chain if we didn't work together. We were competing against woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and dragons. There's no way we didn't stand a chance unless we worked together. And stories are the way that we created those bonds. I don't know if anybody's read the book Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It's an amazing read, yes? Is that yes? A couple people should read it. It's a long read, but a good one. And he says this line that I love: sapiens rule the world because we're the only animal that can flexibly cooperate in large numbers. The real difference between us and chimpanzees, because we're really very, very similar genetically to chimpanzees. The real difference is this mysterious glue that enables millions of people to cooperate effectively. And that glue is made of stories, not genes. Because there's no way, we believe in these different stories that only exist for humans, gods and nations and money and human rights. And there's no way that thousands of people or millions of people around the world would be able to believe these same things and build these communities if it weren't for that. And he says this great line that I love that's like, there's no way you could convince a chimpanzee to give you a banana because after he dies, he will have limitless bananas in chimpanzee heaven. Right? It wouldn't work because other animals use their communication to describe reality. We are the only one that can describe fiction and talk about the past and talk about the present. And that's why we're at the top of the food chain. So, first we use stories for we use them for belonging, but this has always been part of our primal instinct. We're not the only species that has belonging and hierarchy and societies, right? Other animals have that. It's a primal instinct because if you were cast out of the tribe, your chances of living a long, fruitful life would plummet, right? If you were cast out of the tribe. That's why we get embarrassed. When we get embarrassed and there's shame involved, it's because we feel like we're going to be cast out of the tribe. So first, though, we use them to build trust. We use stories to build trust. If I was walking in the woods thousands of years ago and I ran into this other person, well, we wouldn't have too long to figure out if we were friend or foe before one of us was going to get bludgeoned to death with a blunt object. So we'd have to figure each other out. So if I ran into this guy, I'm probably Jack Black in this scenario. If I ran into this guy, I'm like, where are you from? Oh, you know my friend Brantley? Oh, wait, you're from Pinetown? Who's your grandmama? Oh, hell, man, we're cousins! And now, instead of beating each other to death, we're headed down to the banks of the Pamlico to go flounder gigging, right? We've built some trust and now we can trade. Alternatively, if he was related to my rival, Michael Knox, that might have ended a little bit differently. In fisticuffs. So we've always had this need to bond so that we protected each other. It made us feel safe. And even though we've had all these technological advances and we have new tools and our brains process different information, they process them in the same way. We still feel like when we feel that shame that we're going to get kicked out. The squirrel brain, as Seth Godin calls it, is the amygdala. It's right there at your brain stem, kind of the center of your brain. It hasn't changed much since the cognitive revolution. So we still feel those primal feelings of being cast out of the tribe. And to prove it, let's do a quick experiment, okay? So I need all eyes on me, which they should be anyway. Lock in here. Do not turn your head and look. I just want you to indicate with your hand and with your arm, okay? Everybody looking here. So I want you to picture, or imagine rather, that the back wall is completely caught on fire, 10, 15-foot flames, okay? So every door that you came in, we cannot exit. It's all on flames. Now, without looking, staying here, point to where you would go. Good job. Like, basically one of two ways, right? All right. Part two of the experiment. Same thing. Look at me. Don't look. And do not guess, because I know some of you will guess. How many tables are in this room right now? Nobody said nothing. You're guessing. It's 50 I counted last night. Here's the point. You subconsciously knew where the exits were, but you didn't process how many tables in here. Why? Because it's not important. Nobody cares. And why we don't care is because since those primal days, where this was us, we didn't know, we had to conserve as many calories and energy as possible. We did not know when we'd have our next meal. We did not know the next time a dragon would start chasing us, right? So we had to consume our calories. And thinking, using our brain, consumes a ton of energy. Why do you think when you've had a long day of work in the office where all you do is sit in a chair, you come home and you're physically exhausted? It's because this thing uses a lot of energy. So we are designed to discard countless meaningless information all day. In 2017, Donald Miller wrote this great book, Building a Story Brand, and he said, we only care about a few things, these internal psychological drivers: surviving, thriving, being accepted, finding love, achieving aspirational identity, or bonding with the tribe that will defend us socially and physically. And that's what we care about. Now, in the past 5 years, storytelling has become a buzzword in marketing. Everybody knows we need to tell stories, but it wasn't always like that. Historically, businesses and advertisers and marketers, they thought it sounded good, a feel-good story, but what it was really about was the features that they offered, right? People cared about the features, and they would spout off data and stats about everything that their company or organization offered. But now we know that the brain doesn't work that way. They were half right. We do care about the features that are offered out of a product or service, But what we really care about is, what does it really mean to us? How is it going to help us change or overcome a problem? The stats themselves are not enough, right? So now, in the past 10 years, something happened 10 years ago that changed the way, we learned some information that changed the way we view storytelling. And by we, I mean scientists, and we, the general public, benefited from it. So what we know now is that when you hear a story, not just any story, but a good story, your brain, the neural pathways in your brain light up as if you were the one experiencing the situation that the story is about. It's called neural coupling. You may have heard the term mirror neurons as well. This is why when guys go see a Rocky movie, or Creed nowadays, they leave with these inflated egos, right? They think they just got done fighting Apollo Creed. Literally, that's what's going on with their brains. Or if you were watching a horror movie and the hero is walking down the hallway and she knows that any second the monster is going to jump out, and her heart's beating fast, she's got the bat in her hand waiting for it, and your heart's beating fast too, and you're on the edge of your seat, that's neural coupling. You know that you're not actually in that situation, but the thing is, the science behind it is your brain processes it as if you are. That's a huge breakthrough. That means when we tell a good story, we are literally synced up. Our brains are synced up and mirroring the person who's listening, or vice versa. We're in California. I'll put it in California terms. That's how you vibrate on the same frequency, man. Vibes. All right, listen. This is too much science for you all, I can tell. So let's make it simpler. It's still science, but I'm going to use a metaphor that maybe you can understand a little bit more. Now, depending on how hard you went last night at the pub crawl, this image may make you gag. Or it may make you thirsty. It depends on how big of a problem you have. Storytelling cocktail is what I call it. Chemical cocktail or hormone cocktail sounded a little too dark and disturbing. Storytelling cocktail. There is a mixture of hormones that a good story will elevate in our brains, and it gets us drunk on stories. The first one is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, kind of like adrenaline. Cortisol is elevated with tension. If I did a good job telling this story about the flounder, when I'm struggling and I almost hit the bar with my hand and I'm sweating and the knife is shaking and I can't get it out and I'm about to call out to my dad, your levels of cortisol should have risen. Or if we're watching the hero as she's walking down the hallway waiting for the monster to jump out, your levels of cortisol are elevated. And why that's important is because that's what keeps you on the edge of your seat. It does two things. It makes you pay attention and it makes you remember. The next is dopamine. Dopamine, you should know, the feel-good hormone, right? Dopamine is released when the tension bubble pops, okay? This is when the flounder was peeing on me. And all of you are all doped up on dopamine while I was getting pissed on by a flounder. Shame on you. This is also when the hero, when she slays the monster, when she smacks the monster with the bat, and she wins. Dopamine is released. That makes us feel good, and we want to continue to feel good, and it drops our guard, so we're more open, we're more vulnerable. But the kicker is, the one that really gets you drunk is oxytocin. This is like the shot in the Irish car bomb. Oxytocin has historically been known as the love hormone. This is when a mother holds her child. Both of them, their levels of oxytocin rise tremendously, and they are connected. There's a real bond. But what we know now is stories also can create that connection because they elevate your levels of oxytocin when you identify with the characters and the struggles that they have been through. So, if I did my job well at the end of the flounder story, and I talked about that these were the good times with my dad, your levels of oxytocin should have risen. And we would have been connected. And that would have meant you trusted me more because I opened up to you. And that's going to allow me to take all your money. Just kidding. So, as time went on, things got a little better. My dad quit drinking. Now we're in the 90s. I'm about 7th grade there, full head of hair. My dad, same boat, behind him is the same motor, still got the cigarette in his hand. But you see now he doesn't have a glass of vodka, he's got a Pepsi, like a good North Carolina boy. All right? And we'd go tubing. I still don't know how the 35 horsepower motor pulled me in a tube. You see, I'm not in high school when I got heavier. But we'd go tubing, we'd have fun on the Pungo River, and things got pretty good for a while. But then two things happened that changed that. One, if you're from eastern North Carolina or any eastern town, you're familiar with. This was 1999 Hurricane Floyd. Historic. Wiped out the whole, destroyed our trailer cottage in one fell swoop and took out the whole little community. There was a little village at the end of the road where it was working class people. It was a small little village down there. Took it all out. And honestly, that area never recovered. And, as it were, my parents' relationship never recovered. My dad had quit drinking, but let's be honest, the damage had been done. They really couldn't get that magic back. And so my mom left him to pursue her dreams, which he never really let her do. She wanted to be a real estate agent. So she left, and my dad, he never really had the heart to fix the place up. So the house laid there in a rubble. The bulkhead was broken, so the property line was eroding. And he went back. He's at his house here in North Carolina. That's my dog, Lightning. And you can see the boat in the corner of this picture. It sat there in his driveway. Yes, there's a cover on it, but it sat out in the elements. And I don't think he had the heart to fix it and put it back in the water. And my brother Bo and I would kind of plead with him, hey, let's put the boat out again sometime. But we had moved on. We're living in a different place. We were focused on different things. And by that, I mean partying. I was in my 20s, So we didn't really push that hard, but it was just kind of a shame. And then in 2007, the cigarettes finally caught up with him. And he died from lung cancer. And he never put the boat back in the water again. So we're here to talk about storytelling. What makes a good story? This is something that's highly debated. There's a lot of different theories. But look, we're not trying to be Shakespeare in here today. We got an hour together. We're going to keep it simple. Because really the core of what makes a good story, and what I want you all to use, is just simple storytelling tactics. Okay? The first thing, back to what Donald Miller taught us, is that every story must tap into those primal psychological internal drivers that we have. Every story, and every good story, if you break it down, Hollywood movie or whatever, has some element of these things about surviving, which can be life or death, but it can also be what surviving means to us now, which is like putting a roof over our head, providing for our families. So stories about livelihood are also about surviving. Thriving, being successful, that's connected to status. And the higher our status, the more important we are in the tribe, the more protected we are. Being accepted, that's like Rudy making the Notre Dame football team. Achieving an aspirational identity, rags to riches story like Rocky, or bond with a tribe. All of them are going to be something about these things that have been with us since the beginning of humanity. But what really makes a story good is the characters that we follow on this story. So first is identifying who is the character. Let's talk about who's not a character. 10,000 sailors or 400 sailors is not a character. Your features are not a character. And your company is not really a character. It can be, but that's challenging. We need an identifiable, unique, specific, and hopefully interesting character. When I talk to you about my dad, strong, silent countryman, smoked cigarettes, drank, didn't like to go too fast, you had a pretty good image of who my dad was, right? I didn't just say my dad, and you got to see him. So you could put it together without ever knowing him. Very specific and identifiable. And something in him you maybe could relate to because maybe your dad was strong and silent. Hopefully he wasn't an alcoholic, but it happens. And that leads us to the next thing, relatable. Now, often people think what makes a good character, they think, oh, they should be likable. I should like this person. That's somewhat true, but relatable is much more important, okay? Because being likable is good, but we're all flawed, right? We want somebody that we can understand that goes through struggles that we also have gone through. We want to be able to relate to what they're going through. And if they're just these perfect angels and just likable people, sometimes it's hard to relate to them. This is why we're so fascinated with the anti-hero these days. And even though it's gotten really popular in the past 10 plus years, technically Rick from Casablanca was an anti-hero, but the most popular one, probably Tony Soprano from The Sopranos, right? This is our hero, our protagonist that we're following. He's a terrible man. He's a mobster. He's cheating on his wife. He's killing people. He's doing mobster things. Yet we come back every week to root for him because we know deep down he's just a man struggling with trying to manage a business and manage a family life. And he's trying to do the best that he can. That's why we have that little inkling of relatability in there that makes us cheer for a terrible person. It's not about being likable. And then third, that leads us to the third thing, multidimensional. None of us are one-dimensional. Nobody is just good. And even if they were, that's boring. And nobody's just bad, just evil. They should be flawed for a reason. Usually in good stories, the villain, there's something that's driving him to be bad, and we can identify with that at least. That's what makes us latch onto that character. Then, what's important is not just who they are, but what do they want? There are internal and external problems. The external problem, let's take Star Wars. Is everybody somewhat familiar with Star Wars? Yes? All right. So at least the basics. The original one, not the recents. So in Star Wars, the external problem is the Empire had created a planet-destroying weapon that was killing everything, right? And Luke, our hero, really wanted to fight against this. The internal problem that was happening is he didn't believe in himself. He was just a farm boy and thought he was too old to become a Jedi Master. That's the internal problem that he was struggling with. Same thing with Rocky. External problem was he had to fight the heavyweight, championship of the world. The internal problem was he thought he was a bum and he didn't deserve to be in the big leagues. The problems, the internal and external problems, dictate the goal. And the goal is what sets us on that journey. What is the hero trying to achieve? There's a physical goal, which is really what sets us off on the journey. That's what the hero wants. And then there's the emotional goal, the need. And while they don't always achieve the physical goal, they should achieve the emotional goal. So let's take Rocky again, for example. Rocky, the physical goal, he wanted to beat Apollo Creed, the heavyweight champion of the world. But what he really needed, his emotional goal, was to believe that he could fight, he could be in the big leagues. And so when he went the distance, and he didn't beat Apollo Creed, when he went the distance, he achieved that goal, right? Now he's on that level. So that's what we need to tap into, is what's really going on internally? What's their emotional goal? And then what is the change that happens in them that makes them achieve that? Whether it's accepting themselves or forgiving their dad or whatever it might be. And that is what character development and growth is about. So for the boomers that are in the audience, you may remember Ted Levitt. He wrote a piece in the Harvard Business Review in 1960 called Marketing Myopia. And he had this great line: people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. What they want is a 1/4-inch hole, right? You don't inherently want the drill bit. You want what it gives you, right? What it means to your life. Now we have a marketing guru named Seth Godin, whom I've already referenced, who's awesome if you haven't read his stuff. He took it a few levels further. He peeled back that onion peel a little bit more and said, well, nobody really wants a 1/4-inch hole. What the hell are you going to do with a 1/4-inch hole, right? What you really want is a place to put an expansion bolt so that you can hang a shelf. That's what you really want. Let's peel it back one more layer. Why do you just randomly want a shelf? Well, what you really want is a place to organize and put your books. Let's peel it back another layer. You really don't want a place to put your books. They were in a place before, were they not? Right? They were sitting on your floor. Right? They were in a place. What you really want is to tidy up your home office because there's books all over the floor. Let's peel it back one more layer. Because you were able to do your job in your home office with books on the floor. It didn't stop you from doing your work. What you really want is to clean up your home office because it's the first room that people see when they come into your house, and your wife keeps fussing at you because it's a mess, and that's what people see, and they're going to judge you and think your family is messy people. I'm not speaking from experience. Not at all. So that is what you tap into, what's really going on behind it and what you give them. It's not about the features, it's about how it applies to their life and how it helps them achieve their goals, internal and external. Second thing that makes a good story is the structure. This, when I tell people, you've probably even heard this, but I still see eyes widen like they've never thought about this. The difference, what makes a story is a simple arc. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Boom, boom, boom. 3 parts, okay? And in the beginning, there is a status quo, a stasis. This is the once upon a time, right? Life is going on as normal. And then boom, there's an inciting incident that takes us on the journey and creates the problem or the goal of the character. For Rocky, this is when he got a call from Apollo Creed inviting him for a title shot. Sets him on a whole new journey, takes him out of his ordinary world. And then we have rising action and conflict through the middle. This is when those cortisol levels are elevating. And the tension goes up and goes up and goes up all the way to the highest point of tension, which, boom, there is a change in the character. Something changes within him or her, and they achieve their goal, at least their emotional goal. And then we have a resetting of a new world, right? A balance to where things are now, how they have changed because of that. And it should be like this. It should be like a roller coaster ride. It shouldn't just be one linear, path where it just keeps going and tension rising. There should be parts where tension rises and then we release it and fly down, and then there's twists and turns, and then there's a moment where it just evens out just so you can catch your breath, and then we drop again. That's what keeps people connected. Switch it up. Use specific details. Use humor. Use things they don't expect. Twists and turns. That's what's going to keep them going, not just a straight, boring story. This is the story spine. This is used by storytelling professors all over the country and world. Pixar also uses this. This is such an easy template that you can use to tell any story, the story of your organizations, of your product, or anything. Let's try it out using Rocky, okay? Once upon a time, there was a low-rate boxer in Philadelphia. And every day he fought these bums and made just enough scratch to pay his light bill at his crappy Philadelphia apartment. Until one day, he gets a call from the heavyweight champion of the world, inviting him for a title shot. And because of that, he has to go find a real trainer. And because of that, he trains in ways he's never trained before and gets in the best shape of his life until finally he fights the heavyweight champion of the world, and he doesn't win, but he goes the distance with him. And every day after that, he was regarded and considered as one of the top fighters. Boom. Simple as that. You can do it with any story. Was somebody about to clap? Are you guys about to clap? I just gave you the Cliff's Notes of Rocky. Thank you. Okay. So the last thing is the conflict that drives us forward. Okay? We talked about the problems, but now we're going to talk about something else, and I'm going to need a helper. And I usually ask for a volunteer, but I have nominated my friend Blair for this. So Blair, come on and join us on stage. Give her a round of applause, everybody. All right, here's the deal. I invited Blair. Hello, Blair. How are you? Good to see you. I invited Blair on here because I know her, and I know that she is strong enough, smart enough, fast enough, and has the emotional balance to lead our village here. We are all a village, okay? This is why I invited her up here. And as a village, what we need every day is for our fearless leader, our hero, to go to the reservoir and get water for our village so that we can drink it, okay? Here's what you're gonna do, Blair.
Do I get a cape?
You do not get a cape. Real superheroes don't wear capes.
Just flannel shirts.
Just flannel shirts, that's a good one. All right, so you're gonna start here at the edge of the stage. Come, edge of the stage. Fearless leaders also pay attention. And I want you to hold this, and we need this water so we can survive. And I just want you to just wait to walk it to the other side of the stage, and that is going to represent you going to the reservoir and bringing us back our water for the day, okay? Just walk to the other edge and meet me back in the middle. Be careful. We need that water to live. Oh, she's showboating now, okay? Real heroes don't showboat. All right, so let's give just a snapping round of applause. Nice, yes. Small round of applause because she does this every day, okay? Now let's make it a little more interesting. Blair, go back to where the reservoir is. I'll let you guys see what's going on here. Let me come close to her. Yeah. Situation's different now. There's been a drought for a month. Oh, we're about to die, all of us. It just rained last night, but it stopped and it's going to evaporate quickly. So we need every drop of this water, or we're all going to die. And we got to send Blair to go get it right now. And if Blair spills one drop, the whole village is gone. No pressure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's close. I'm even shaking. So don't go yet. Just be careful. Oh my gosh. Wait. Don't go yet, Blair. Because if you rush things, who knows what will happen? Somebody said, yeah. Straight line, let's stay between these two blocks. Okay? Now slowly, carefully, take it. Do not spill it. Oh my God, it's about to spill. You guys are about to die. Holy crap. Oh God, be careful, Blair. Oh my God, that was so close. Big round of applause. All of you should thank her because you're now alive. Now you can take a sip. Okay, don't go anywhere, Blair. Credit where credit is due. I borrowed that bit from Alan Alda. If you are a boomer, you may know him from MASH. If you're a millennial like me, maybe 30 Rock. He's an actor, but what most people, a hilarious actor, what most people don't know about Alan Alda is he's a science nerd, and for decades he's worked with scientists to get them to understand how to communicate their findings to normal people like us. And he wrote this amazing book called If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face? And it's about helping scientists explain their findings because they can't do it. So, as a thank you to Blair for saving the whole village, she gets a copy of this book. Which is not signed by Alan Alda, but it is signed by me. So, thank you. So, let's dissect it. The first one was technically a story. There was an identifiable character. There was a goal. There was a beginning. There was a problem. There was a beginning and a middle and an end. It was pretty boring, right? Look at the difference when there are obstacles and stakes. See, the goals are important to the journey because that's what the hero has to gain, what they want to achieve. But the stakes, which are often overlooked and neglected, are equally as important because that's what the hero has to lose. That is so important for us to care about a story because why do I care about this person's story? What's at risk? What do they have to lose? This is what makes us empathize with the character. Empathy is that key to building the connection. What is it really about? So what is sailing really about? Speak up. Tell me. What's it really about to you? Say it again? Say more. Is it about controlling that uncontrollable force? Yeah. Let's peel that onion layer back a little bit. It's about win, but what is it really about? What else?
Friendships.
Good one. Friendships. What else? Family. Adventure. All of these things. Competition. All of these things that you're listing are still those simple psychological drivers that we've always had as people, right? And we use storytelling to connect when we understand what things are really about. And storytelling is how we're going to reach out and build those connections and build lasting relationships because there are things that we share. You may be physically in the sailing community for one reason, but it's really about, we just listed like 5 things. There's not many more than that. And that's how we build these connections, is by the shared things that we have in common, shared values, what we care about, right? What means something to us, what we believe in, shared struggles, the things that we've gone through. When I told you that my dad passed away, maybe somebody in here understood what I was going through in that moment, right? These are what our beliefs are made of. And our beliefs are tied to our emotions. And so when you tell a story, that's what I want you to do, is go for their emotions by knowing what really is mattering to people. Okay? When you connect with them that way, that's the key to empathy. And empathy is the key to connection. The beautiful thing about connection that I love is it breeds more connection, right? You know the concept of like a friend of a friend? And then you start hanging out with that friend of a friend so much they become your friend. This is how connections multiply. And this is how communities grow. By growing those connections, starting with a single connection with one person. And then it spreads its branches from there. That's how we build our communities. At the end of the day, storytelling is about change and overcoming obstacles. So when you're looking to tell those stories and make those connections, tell a story about someone that they can relate to and identify and relate to, that shows them the changes they need to make to overcome those obstacles and those internal problems that they're facing. So, as time went on, my mom did pretty well. She started her own real estate company, got Realtor of the Year several times. But there was this gap in our family, right? Yes, there was a gap because my dad had passed away, obviously, but also we hadn't had a place at the river, and we really missed that because that was such a part of our lives, right? Of our stories, of our hearts. So my mom had made a little bit of money, and she found this adorable cottage. It's a real house this time, guys, in Hickory Point near Aurora, North Carolina. So where the previous place was in Hyde County was off, the Pamlico River is about 4 miles wide, and it was off of the Pungo River, which was on the north side, way up here, and then Hickory Point was on the south side of the Pamlico River, about 5 miles away. And on a good clear day, you could almost see the point around where our old place was in Hyde County. And we fixed the boat up, and we got it back in the water. There it is with that same damn Evinrude motor from 1981. Can you believe it? Crank start, too. Crank start. I took it, back then, I took it to the boat company, and they, like the young guys had never seen a crank start outboard motor. Swear to God. They were like, I don't even know how to get it. They had to get the owner to come out there. So we got it running, and it had a new life, and we had a new life. Look, there's me and my brother getting it in South Creek. 35 horsepower, we weren't really getting it, okay? I struggle to call it a power boat. There's me probably pulling in crab pots at the top. There's the boat out at Indian Island, which is almost to Pamlico Sound. It had a new life. We had new life with the boat. And then what happened? Again, 2011, Hurricane Irene, which is only a Category 1, but it sat on the Pamlico Sound for a whole day, churning. That's the house. That's the garage on the left. That's the house on the right. Now, if you notice in the bottom right corner of that picture, the green steps, they were connected to the front door, which is now 25 feet away. The house was in the middle of the road like Wizard of Oz shit. Like, the whole thing moved. Obviously, you can see, and if you look in the background of the garage, like all the houses were destroyed. That's the garage, that's the house. And that's the trailer where the boat was. And the boat was nowhere to be found. And that broke me. because that was the last thing that I had of my dad's. That was my dad. And it broke me. I like to think maybe in some world it found its way back to the Pungo River 5 miles away. That's how I like to think about it. But my mom was devastated too, the whole family was, because she had spent all her money and gotten this house for us, and we loved it. She loved it. She fought FEMA for a year and finally got some insurance money so that we could rebuild. Because if you have a house in the water down there, you're always going to have to rebuild. And the next year for her birthday, which is in July, we gave her this picture. And we put it in a frame that was appropriately refurbished from an old door. And we wrote this thing on the mat. This is the image. This is, we called the place the Point. It was down at Hickory Point. We referred to it as we're going to the Point this weekend. And so this is from the yard looking out at the Pamlico River. And we gave her this, and on the mat we wrote, "It's not the house that makes it the point." She got it immediately. She broke down. Because when you live in a place like that on the water, houses come and go. But this, the feeling of sitting here, looking out at that glassy 4 miles of Pamlico River, that's what the Point was about, right? We can put a new house there. That's what it's really about. It's not the house that makes it the Point. And it's not the old Mitchell boat that makes my relationship with my dad. And it's not the sailboat that makes sailing what it's really about. It's here. What is it really about to the people? There are endless stories within you, burning inside of you. So I want you to get out there, share those stories, make those connections with people, and grow your communities. Because as humans, we absolutely need them. My name is Bennett. Thank you all for listening.